What is up, YouTube? I'm Brandon from Tattooing 101, and I've been looking at the comments, and we ran a poll figuring out exactly what people are looking for whenever it comes to learning how to tattoo. A lot of you have been interested in learning how to draw, so for the next couple of videos, I'm going to be showing you how to draw some traditional tattoo designs. This will be the standing point of your tattoo career, so I definitely recommend that you follow along with me and learn how to draw these designs, because it will help you land that apprenticeship or get you to the next level of being able to draw your own designs. So in this video right here, I'm going to be showing you exactly how to draw a Grim Reaper tattoo design. And make sure you like and subscribe down below if you're interested in this kind of content and want to see more in the future. So let's get into it. Okay, to start out the Grim Reaper design, what we're going to do is start out our shapes just like any other design that we do. So what I have in my head is that we're going to do a Grim Reaper with a scythe to the side. So what I mean by that is we'll just do the circle for how to draw our skull, and I just made a video on how to draw skulls. If you're more interested in going into detail about that, I highly recommend you check out that video. So for this is going to be pretty much where our skull is going to be, and then of course we're going to have some part of his hood coming up here, coming over the top of its head, and then we'll probably have the scythe coming down this way. So we'll draw a line to where we want our scythe to be, and the top part of the scythe coming around like this. So now that we have pretty much all the dimensions and everything sketched out, we could go in and try to do a little bit more detail and have an idea of what we're wanting to do. So I think I'm going to do we'll start out with the skull. So with the skull, I know that I want the hood to come around like this. Go back into the scythe like that, and we can start on our actual skull, which will be right like this. Have the circles for where the eyes are going to be, the nose, and we're just pretty much mapping out where everything's going to go. We're not going too far into detail with this, just getting an idea of where all the parts of the skull are going to be in retrospect to the final design. Right like that. And we could go in with a little bit more defined lines in there, just so we have an idea when we go in with our blue pencil where everything needs to go. Right like this. So whenever I'm drawing, I like to sketch a lot. This first stage is pretty much getting everything mapped out where I need it to go. We're not going too far into detail. If you've watched my drawing videos before, you know pretty much exactly the setup of how I do things and change things around as I'm going through. So right like this is going to be the basic of the design going forth, and I'll probably add, a blood drop or two in this negative area. Cool. So from here, what we could do is get the basic shape for the scythe down before moving on to our blue. It's going through here, and it's going to be kind of a crescent moon shape going down through. So, and the cool thing about working with digital is if you run out of room, like say that you had to do the scythe thicker and it went above, that all you have to do is scale down your design a little bit and you have way more room on the paper. That's one positive thing when it comes to doing designs on digital instead of actual paper, is you have a lot more leeway when it comes to mistakes. You could just go back and fix that area or do things a little bit different to make it happen, which is why so many different artists are switching over to digital, because it's just the way to go. Okay, we'll have the back part of the scythe right there, and we're just going to add some rope or some string to hold them together just for like a visual effect right here. And I think that I'll add a spike on the end instead of just a stopping point right like that. Cool, so this is the basics of our design. From here I could turn down the opacity and go over to our blue. And now we're going to build up all the shapes and pretty much get everything basic down for this design, and then we'll go in with our black for our final design. So we'll start out the blood drops. And you could still sketch with this layer, you know, starting out real light and kind of building up your tones with this layer is completely fine. And if you have to change something dramatically, you could also do that in this layer as well. It's not something to where you're kind of stuck with everything going on up to this point. You could change it around pretty much everything you want until the final layer to where you're pretty much stuck. That's what you want to follow completely, so you know where everything's going to go with your design, because that will be your final layer that you use for, you know, an actual stencil. You can see that I didn't like that area right there, so I just went back and I'm going to do it a different way. Right like that. Changing up some of the shapes to the design just to have it flow really good. Go through here and do the teeth. And once you get used to drawing skulls, you can pretty much incorporate them with any design. That's one thing that, you know, I see so many people just kind of copying skulls instead of learning to draw them. And it's so easy. Once you get the hang of drawing a skull, you could pretty much do it in any style that you want to. So I highly recommend that you learn how to draw these things, because it's going to help out your career so much. You know, there's already a ton of artists out there that can pretty much tattoo other people's designs, that we really want to transition into being able to draw and be a custom artist, because that's what's going to stand you apart in this industry. You know, anyone could really learn to copy someone else's design, but learning to draw is going to be a big deal. And that's the main reason I'm doing all these tutorials on how to draw, is so everyone can see exactly how I draw the main things that I do mostly when it comes to tattooing. You know, you're going to do a lot of roses, you're going to do a lot of Grim Reapers, skulls, things like that. So these are the main things, you know, feathers, you're going to do a lot of feathers as well. So these are all the main things that I would recommend that you learn to draw to help out your tattoo career. And obviously, if you know how to draw, it's going to help you. It's going to help be able to land that job that you want in a tattoo studio, or be able to get into an apprenticeship that you want, because no one really has the time to teach you how to draw. They're going to teach you how to tattoo, but drawing something that you really should have kind of a basic idea before jumping into a tattoo studio, because it'll make things a whole lot easier and you'll be able to learn a ton faster. So right here, I'm going to add a little part of the neck bone right here, just coming through. Some wood grain. Right like that. And I really don't like the end of this scythe right here, so I think I'm just going to take that away, and we're just going to have it end right like this. Awesome. So now we could get rid of that red one completely, and this is pretty much the basic of our final design. Like, you know, everything should be pretty mapped out. You know exactly where everything needs to go with your final. So now we could switch off to our black right here, and from our sketcher to our actual final pen. Go through here and get this design finished up. And I also like to turn the opacity down as well, so I could just focus on my lines I need to do instead of trying to figure out where everything needs to go. Okay. Just going through and following the lines we already made with our sketching steps. And I know it seems repetitive whenever it comes to, you know, starting out with the red and then going in with the blue and then for the final, but once you get used to this, it's going to make things a whole lot easier on you, and it won't seem so repetitive because it's just going to be like common nature when it comes to your drawing process, and it won't be annoying. I know that when I first started out, I was like, you know, I just want to jump on to the final step instead of messing around, you know, with all these other colors when I know I could draw it. But, you know, even still to this day, I'll always start out with these steps whenever I'm making a design, because I like to kind of see what my brain's telling me before just throwing it on a final design. So like the little things that I've changed throughout this design, just like the end of the scythe, if I would just draw it from, you know, this perspective the first time, I wouldn't have been able to kind of see and change those things, and I would have had to redo the design completely instead of just fixing those little things along the way. Add a little line for the shading there. And then for this, I don't want it to be super straight. You know, this is wood, so it's going to have some turns to it. So I'm just going to add some nicks and some differences when it comes to the actual wood to make the wood grain work. Normally, if I was wanting it perfect, I would use, you know, the streamline to where I just do this and it would change it. But, you know, I don't want it perfect for this. And this is the top of the wood. I want it to look like, you know, it's been dinged up and beaten on a little bit, so I'll just add some of that to it. Want to make sure all your lines are connecting to each other, because if they don't, when you go to make a stencil, it's not going to line up correctly. Okay, I can use the streamline for this to where I just hold down on it and it'll make that perfect arc. So that way when I do go to do the stencil, you know, it'll be perfect. I'm gonna make this a little bit thicker. That looks perfect right there. Now we could go through and do the final marks for the wood grain, right like this. Wood grain took me a little bit to get used to drawing it. You know, it is kind of different. It's just kind of something that'll click eventually. You know, you could look up wood grain or look up other designs to kind of get used to being able to draw the wood grain in a design, but I've been doing it so long that it kind of just comes naturally to me at this point. But that's something that'll come with practice as well. But this is my design for a Grim Reaper.